All right, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. Kenneth Price, it's Sunday, February 5th, with my mighty companion, Chris, on our 63rd Zoom call. Chris is going like this. I've done this 63 times. All right, I'll do it a 63rd time. Kenneth Price for psychiatricsobriety.com, and we dedicated an entire hour every Sunday morning to unwinding ourselves from the hypothesis of mental illness. And oftentimes that incorporates surrendering our pharmaceuticals. It's a courageous decision. Can't talk. It's a courageous decision. I made that decision in my late 40s, and it was the best decision of my entire life. It's the whole reason I'm hosting these Zoom calls, this entire ministry. Spent 25 years of my life in psychiatry. Pills and pills and pills and pills. The pills probably saved my life at first. Towards the end, they were robbing me of life. It's a very courageous decision to surrender these pills, and that's a very deep rabbit hole, the discussion of pills, which we really don't want to spend our time going down that rabbit hole. We want to spend our time on the solutions. So what are the solutions? Anybody who brings solutions into these rooms, I'm fair game. My solution is the Course in Miracles. My solution is metaphysics. My solution is spiritual. I'm fair game. Whatever works for you is what we're going to move through with in the next hour. We're recording these for an entire hour. All right, so I need to set that up. If you want to bring something forward that is not ready to be broadcast on the internet, wait until I turn off the recording, and then you can share it in private. But please, 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 please have courage and share as much as you can, because that's how I got better. When I stopped keeping secrets, I began to emerge out of this whole hypothesis of mental illness. I was never mentally ill. That's why, if you look at my website, the very first tagline is a quote by Krishnamurti. To be well adjusted to an insane society is not a sign of mental health. We're all different colors of the rainbow. And if we don't fit into a box, it doesn't mean you're mentally ill. It means you're fabulous. It means you're sophisticated. It means you're talented. And it means many things. But it does not mean mental illness. So, it's kind of like what Popeye, used to say, I am what I am, and that's all that I am. It's a lot more complicated than that. But that's why I've dedicated, so much of my time to this entire ministry. So it's a ministry, yeah, but is it religious? Hell no. For a lot of us, religion was the mental illness. So it is a ministry because this whole mental illness dynamic phenomenon cannot be solved with the same mind that created it, okay? It cannot be solved because nothing's going wrong. This cannot be fixed because it's not a problem, okay? It requires a completely new thought system to emerge from something that has been so complicated by a society that in amongst itself has no place judging us, because they're, usually it's the sick ones judging us, and we took the bait. But we're not going to take the bait anymore. We've had enough. We're not going to listen to anybody else who labels us, something that we're not. We're going to get the hell out of Dodge. Fear is what got me into my mess. Love is what's busting me out. Love from other people, but love that's coming from ultimately source, agape love. There, I've just pontificated enough. A Course in Miracles student, that's my chosen path. And because I'm a Course in Miracles student, here is how I start off every Zoom call with the Healer's Prayer. We are here only to be truly helpful, and we are here to represent him or her who sent us. We do not have to worry about what to say or do, because he or she who sent us will direct us. We are content to be wherever he or she wishes, knowing he or she goes there with us, and we will be healed as we let him or her teach us how to heal. Folks, that's how I emerged from my psychiatric parable. That's how I surrendered all of those psych meds, including benzodiazepines. I got on my knees and I asked for help. Where did the help come from? beats the hell out of me. The prayer was sincere, and the angels arrived. Were the angels something I could see, hear, touch, taste, or smell? No. But I had to look for the evidence. And by this place in my life, I'm going to be 56 very soon. I got tons of evidence. I'm a Course in Miracles student, so we call them Course in Miracles. All right, we call them miracles. All right, I pontificated enough. Let's hear from Chris. Let's hear from Mary. Let's hear from Jody. How is everybody?
I want to start.
Go.
So it starts with a question, because as you were speaking, I had something going on inside of me. You were stirring something inside of me, and that was the Wayseer Manifesto.
I love that video.
Me too. And my question to you, Kenneth, is have you ever started one of these meetings with that video?
I think that's a splendid idea. Wayseer's Manifesto.
Because imagine the kind of conversation that we could have after getting because that just pumps me up. I'm one of the weirdos, and I accidentally told a doctor that, like, basically, depending on what lens I look at my story in, I shared a little bit too much of my sensitivity with the doctors, and they labeled it as wrong. Well, society labeled it as wrong and sick and bad and needing to be fixed and medicated. And so the more I heal, the more I become unapologetically Jody, the more I realize and embrace I am one of the weirdos. And I love that quote that you keep putting up. One of my favorite quotes is, "Don't follow the crowd, they're lost."
Yeah. They're the sheep and they're going over the cliff. I'm afraid, what's that old, meme that's going around Facebook? You got two movie theaters side by side. The first one is a convenient lie, and the second one is an uncomfortable truth. And everyone is going to see the convenient lie. This is an uncomfortable truth, folks, and this is why it takes courage. It took courage for me to admit that I was going, over a cliff, but the rewards are listen, this is the crux. I had to admit I was going over a cliff, and that was frightening. Then, as I continued to do the work, I realized, number one, there was no me, and number two, there was no cliff. Both were an illusion, and that is the tiny man idea that just had me busting up in stitches. But we've got to take the risk first to jump off that cliff and say, I'm doing this to myself. Then, as the angels run in, and what did they do? They didn't heal me. They showed that there was no me. And then I started laughing, and suddenly, emergence. Go figure. How's that one? Take psychiatry to put that in your pipe and smoke it. Who wants to jump on that? I gotta pick up my pen. I'm sorry. I get so fired up over this. Jody, I had a friend. I was coming off the K. How old am I? I'm going to be 56. It was 14 years. I was coming off the K, and I was dragging. I was pulling. Every Sunday morning, but goddamn it, every Sunday morning I got in the car and I went to church. You could appeal, but I don't know. They must. I was like a homeless person. I still am kind of like a homeless person, but I was like the homeless person, slumped over in the back. But I said, if there's going to be a God, he's going to be in this room. And it's true. That's where I met. Joanne, I'll say her name. I'm not supposed to. She wouldn't mind if I said it. That's where the first angel arrived, and I just poured everything out. I said, Joanne, I'm coming off drugs. I'm coming off medication. I'm here at church. I've chosen life. And she was an educator, and she had also tried to commit suicide. And she was much older than me, and she had a huge heart. And God sent her. And she sent me the internet. It wasn't at all what it was today, but she sent me the Wayseer Manifesto. And she said, "This is you, kiddo." Now, listen, I didn't have hardly any spiritual training. I tell people, get a spiritual foundation, then go off your meds. Because first, I went off my meds, and I went seeking for a spiritual training. So maybe I learned from my mistakes. But she sent me that. And she, I mean, she was introducing me to the very fundamental stages of just basic New Age. And that's what she said to me. And I heard it. I mean, it came through her. She said, "You're an indigo." And I would take that label over mentally ill any day. If you can want to raise your vibration, go from mentally ill to indigo. That's my invitation for somebody, and it worked. Finally, I had a label that pulled me out of the category of street person, which is basically what I allowed myself to become, with all those handfuls of pills and trying to come off of them.
It's funny you're talking about angels, because we have I have experiences with angels. Like you, I have kind of seen them, but not touched them tangibly, and they've jumped in at different points in my life at the most amazing times and pulled me out of the wreckage. But sometimes our angels are people that we know, as you said. And I was speaking to my friend Deborah the other day, because this weird situation keeps coming up in my real life where, because it doesn't matter what you've gone through or where you're at, you're always on your way someplace else. And whenever we start to feel like maybe I have my ego under control, there will be something that'll come up and show you maybe where you don't. And so there's a lady who for the last 4 years, every once in a while, she'll rise up and write a spate of 1-star reviews for my music school. I've never met her, but I know who she is. She's admitted it in writing. It's a weird karmic thing. I tried to talk to her once on the phone about her chronic pain and cheer her up, and it really hit a nerve in a bad way. So she goes after me every now and then. And recently she wrote 7 1-star reviews for my business and really tanks my score online, makes it, and it really shook me up inside, like a lot, because it feels unfair, and it's just, she never gives up. So I was complaining to my friend Deborah on the phone, because Deborah's a very thoughtful, wise older woman I'm good friends with. And she said, the things that woman says aren't true about you. And I said, I know. I said, but the strangest thing is I feel deep shame. I feel deep shame when these 1-stars come up, because other people will read them and they'll think that that's true about me. And she said, what does your shame make you? What other emotion other than shame? I said, well, it makes me feel unsafe. It makes me feel like maybe my successful business, which is paying my bills, maybe will become unsuccessful, and then I won't have money, and then all these cascading thoughts. And she said, so do you think your issues are with feeling unsafe? And it really got us talking. And I thought, my whole life, I think you talk about fear, and I know being unsafe comes from fear. I get that. But I the whole week I've been pondering, like, what makes me feel safe? How do I find myself so vulnerable that a stranger can make me feel unsafe with false words? So that's been my challenge. And then this morning I woke up and she'd written another one, because Google's happy to email me and tell me every time she does this. And I thought, and it shook me up again. And so I worked with that all morning, and I played with the kittens, and I watched some videos, and I jumped up and down and yelled. I burned all that adrenaline that comes into me. I'm learning to just jump up and down and scream and just work it all out, burn it out like animals do. They say the reason that we shake when we're upset is because we're full of adrenaline, and our body's trying to work the adrenaline out of it, because it's not good for us. And so I was just dealing with the feeling under attack, but then being like, no, who I am cannot be attacked. This woman is trying to teach me a lesson. This stupid, crazy woman is trying to teach me a lesson about who I am and where is safety and what is safety. And so that's what I came into this meeting with today was issues of, and after Deborah and I talked about it, I said, in the big picture of things and all the things that I have to learn, I said, you just managed in one conversation to make me see what she is doing is just a very, very small thing. And that was no small task to make me see that as a very small thing. But I went from feeling under siege to being like, huh, why am I so easily brought down? So anyway, I don't know if that strikes a chord in anybody, but that's where I'm at. I'm still working on my issues of ego. Maybe my ego isn't so much about me, but maybe it's about my business. It's another form of my ego.
Mary, that should strike a chord for the entire world. You've just described mental health in a nutshell. You know, it's cause effect. It's the victim. Humans are victims. I mean, people think, oh, I'm not a victim. Are you a human being? Yes, victim. It's because human beings think that they can be affected by. And we think that, and it's a deep, deep rabbit hole. The only way I emerged from mental illness was to go straight Alice in Wonderland, down the rabbit hole. There's no mental illness down the rabbit hole because there's no us. But I love your description. Thank you for bringing that in this morning. That's why I'm not popular. People wanted a nice, simple formula. Not push it over the cliff. Oh, there's no bottom. Oh, I'm having fun falling. Oh, no bottom. It's so horrible. I get my shame. I'm in a spiritual community. They push shame buttons on purpose here, you know? Oh, look, shame button. But it's got to come up. Otherwise it's unconscious. It lies down. And this is hard. I mean, this is the hardest path. I'm in boot camp right now. But, you know, because it's got to come up to be unbelievable. That's what you're doing. You're unbelieving it. You're questioning it. Is this who I am? Can who I am be, you know, there's, what's that old empowerment program? It used to be called EST, or now it's Landmark. I don't know if it's still around, but they used to.
I did that, yeah.
Did you? It wasn't that they used to put the participants on stage and have someone just insult the hell out of them or something?
I did that, yep.
They have exercises like that. Well, I get it for free here at the spiritual community.
You know what's interesting about that, though? It's like, Mary, what you were saying, some of it really resonated with me. Something that happened to me this past week, and long story short, towards the end of a very busy work week, I then hung out with some family on Friday night and recognized myself like getting really bothered and kind of regressing and like getting, I don't know if I was triggered or disassociating or something, but I was like shutting down. And later that night, I was like doing a similar observation and just trying to look back at that situation. And I think what's so interesting about it is like being able to do what you did, I think is awesome to be able to look at that and through the lens of an observer and go like, okay, that's so interesting. Like in your case, like this woman is criticizing me, but it sounds like what you were recognizing is all this other stuff that came up with it, right? It wasn't just the criticism. It wasn't just this one woman. It's like she represents so much, you know, from your past or maybe past criticisms and hurts, and then it stirs up fears. Totally relate to that. That's similar but different situation was happening to me on Friday. And it made me realize that because I kind of had to then reverse engineer. Okay, what was the cause and effect? How did I get here? How did I get to a place where a comment could send me over the edge? And for this past week, for my situation, I realized I had worked really hard over the week. It was a week that was really taxing. It spread me thinner than I probably would have liked to be spread. My sleep was down. My diet wasn't great. All these things that all of a sudden I realized, oh yeah, well, there you go. There's the cause and effect, perhaps. And this is, I'm commenting on my own situation, not yours, but, and so this morning I woke up because yesterday I was just feeling down about it all, about, oh, I was doing so good. And then here are some comments that bothered me. Here comes the shame, right? like, oh, I should be, I should never let things bother me, or whatever that voice is that's kind of whispering in my ear. So I spent Saturday just kind of trying to take care of myself. I was like, I got to get out of my head. I got to get into my body. I did some yoga. I just really took it easy during the day. I just realized I needed to rest. And this morning I woke up with this thought of like, yeah, I got to like reset, instead of getting so down about myself, because that shame just comes up like a wave of like, oh, I should be over this, or I've done so much work in this area, it shouldn't bother me anymore. And I realized, I was like, you know what? Like I could just hit the reset button. Jody's always talking about this. Every day is this chance to just start again. We all, at this point, we all kind of know what to do. Okay, I gotta reset my diet. I'm gonna try to get some better sleep. I'm gonna do this and that, and I'm going to try to also not beat myself up when inevitably it all doesn't work and I get triggered or upset, and it sends me on that spiral. I'm trying to, like, I don't know. It's like after a while you start recognizing your own patterns, right? And at some point, I think I'm at a point where I'm trying to just like love and accept the pattern, and like, all right, like that just happens. And, instead of getting too stuck in it. But anyway, just wanted to share that. I really resonated with what you were saying.
And I was reading, it was funny because I feel like lessons come in layers. And only that week I'd been reading about, someone had posted, I don't know if you would agree, but they were talking about vibrational emotions by their vibrational energy. And so joy, and even above joy, is just this sort of like openness to all. But at the very bottom, below anger, below fear, below sadness, was shame. Shame was at the very lowest tier. And this person, and I found this several places actually, they had assigned an actual vibrational number to all these emotions, but shame was at the rock bottom. And it got me pondering shame, because I think my whole life I walked around feeling shame for not being good enough. And I think that spawned my need to be the best, so that I wouldn't carry shame, and shame to win competitions because not winning was shameful. And I can't say, I have a parent that I'm very critical of, but I really can't even say that she particularly instilled it in me. I think I was kind of born that way, feeling like I had to be an overachiever or I wasn't good enough. And so these whole issues of shame my whole life, and then reading that vibration was the lowest one, and then having this thing come up. And then again, when I was talking to my friend Deborah, I said, why do you think shame would be at the bottom of that? And she said, because shame is insidious and shame is isolating. With shame, you have no one you can share it with. It's all alone. You feel cut off and alone through the emotion of shame. It's too shameful to talk about. It's too shameful to share. And it got me thinking about this group, for instance, how, people go through other difficult things in life and everyone raises them up. Oh, they went through a hard divorce, they lost their business, and they kept going. But if you ever get entangled in drugs, no matter how legally or how well advised the prescription was, there's a shame to that. And it shouldn't be that way, but it is. It isn't something one can readily share. I think I actually do readily share my story when I feel like it will help someone. But most of the world feels that it's shameful, even though it may have come about perfectly understandable reason. And I don't think anybody goes into this stuff without a perfectly understandable reason, however ill-advised. But there's a shame and a cutting off that leaves one feeling isolated, like you don't have people, that no one would ever understand your story, and that you should just fade away and die, because that's where shame takes you, is that you should just go away. You should disappear because you're not good enough to be amongst those who didn't have the same experience. And I definitely think this group is so important, and groups like it, because it is very isolating. When I was going through everything I went through, I didn't have people like you. I was all alone. And if it hadn't been for my religious experiences during that period, I don't think I would have made it through. So I'm very thankful that this group exists. not just for myself, but for all those that, like I said, I just wish I'd had a group like this at the time. It's been 5 years now. I hit my 5-year mark.
That's why I started it, because I was like, everyone who comes in here who emerges says, you know, or how many times have we heard people say, if I ever emerge from this, I'm going to start a community. Well, all of us who have emerged are starting our communities. We have to. I don't want anybody to go through what I went through. And, you know, it wasn't necessary. The pain was necessary, but the suffering wasn't. I got to turn off these notifications. The shame.
Or maybe it was, Kenneth. Who knows?
It might.
I think it is.
Ultimately.
I think we all have to go through that emergence of the cocoon, right? It's a struggle to go through it. And yes, like the suffering is a choice, but that struggle is what we need to go through. I think it is the emergence vehicle.
Emperor Moth?
Yeah. Remember?
The whole video was titled Emperor Moth.
I think it's really true. And the deeper I dive into that, the meaning of all of this is so important, right? What meaning we place on our story. And the more I look back on it and unpack all of the different facets of it, I can come up with these different meanings. And a lot of them are really, really empowering. Like that whole, you know, we have to go through this struggle, whatever your personal struggle is different than my personal struggle. I had to go through each one of those phases to get to this phase now, and I'm not done yet. I'm still in, we are all works of art, right? We're not done. We get to keep going. Hi, Greg.
Hello.
Works of art. I mean, I've said this in, you know, by now in over 100 Zoom calls, the house on sand has to wash away. I mean, God damn it, I got done with my psychiatric parable. I said, it was in the Bible the whole time. I was just too busy judging the Christians. House on sand, wash it away. Build your house on rock. Ding dong. So
Yeah,
simple,
you know,
but
in that way, Kenneth, because you mentioned earlier, like you really encourage people to have a spiritual foundation, you know, before starting withdrawal, which makes perfect sense. But just my personal story, I had very little personal, you know, any kind of faith or spiritual foundation, and withdrawal kind of helped me lay some kind of foundation. You know, didn't someone in this group say a while back, there are no atheists in psych med withdrawal? Yeah. Like there are no atheists in foxholes kind of thing. I think there is something to, I think it's easier if you have a foundation, but if you don't, you may find this will allow you to lay a foundation.
Chris,
That's
you did it
definitely what
again.
happened to me.
Chris, you did it
Really?
again. You gave me the topic. There are no atheists in psych med withdrawal. Thank you.
Hey, but
Very welcome. I
hold
took it
on.
from someone else.
There are atheists in psychiatric drug withdrawal. I went through my whole, like it was my emergence catalyst. It's what brought me down to my knees that day when I said, okay, like literally I looked up and I said, okay, if I need this, show me. As an atheist, I looked up and I said, okay, show me. So we're all on different journeys.
You know what I
Me
love
too,
about,
Jody.
Fun.
you know what I love about my teacher is he loves atheists. He loves atheists. Which I mean, this was so counterintuitive for a spiritual teacher loves atheists, because an atheist goes to my teacher and says, "Look at all the pain and suffering in this world. Look at the war. Look at the famine. Look at the disease. God did not create this world." And my teacher says, "Absolutely, God didn't create it. You're right. Surprise, you got it. God didn't create this world." I'm sorry I had to add that. From a course, wisdom from a Course in Miracles teacher. Who's next? I'm sorry. It's a mind fuck for somebody who's got a biblical, you know, belief in you know the Genesis story, and trust me, my teacher uses the word Jesus, you know, in every other sentence. But it's the Course in Miracles correction to the biblical, misunderstandings that humans were not ready for. And the first one is, no, God did not create this world. The next question is, well, who did? My teacher would just say, you did. So what are you going to do about it? True. You got to look at someone and say, you're creating it. So what are you going to do about it? And then this ties in with all of Jody's work.
And that's one of the
Created
hardest
this.
pills to swallow, right? What are we going to do
That's the
about
bitter
it?
pill to swallow. That's to unwind the victim that Mary was referring to before. I mean, talk about a deep rabbit hole. No, you didn't just create benzo withdrawal. I mean, you created that war. You created that famine. Because in this moment, there is no war and there is no famine except for what you're thinking and believing. This is how deep it is. We are responsible for every single one of our thoughts. Human race wasn't ready for this. And most of the human race probably still isn't ready for this. You get done with a benzo withdrawal, you get done with a psych med withdrawal, get ready for this. Because it's how I emerge from a hopeless situation. I mean, we're talking suicidal here. I mean, we all know the serious nature of this conversation. For us, it was unbeliever bust because we were all at the point of suicide. We created our own miracle. We did. We brought grace in. And this is the work. And I'm glad we brought up the topic of shame, because we have to make the admission without shame and without guilt. Yes, I created that war. Yes, I created that famine. Yes, I created my benzo withdrawal. Unconsciously. I've got to become conscious. Basically, what we're saying here in a nutshell is I have to wake up out of the dream. Some people say, oh, I want to wake up out of the dream. I want to wake up. But no, there's no more buts. We've got to wake up out of the dream. And it goes back to what Mary was saying. Who am I? Saying in every single one of the Zoom calls. It's the work I do every single day. The work has to take priority. You think remodeling this house is priority? No. Remodeling the house, even though I do it for 12 hours a day, and haven't stopped working for the last 3 months, is actually secondary. First thing I'm responsible for is what I'm thinking and believing. Emergence in a nutshell. What else? What else can I pontificate on? That's all we do here on Sundays for an hour, but we do it together. This is called intimacy. This is the work. We're not coming together and this is not like a sewing circle where we just we needlepoint together and talk about superficial gossip. Because when you get done with this, I mean, after you've coming off psych meds or benzos, there's no more time for gossip. Because all of our energy has to be, but this is what we want. It's how do you get reconnected? Someone's got to pick up on that because I'm running out of preaching.
We get reconnected by going to the breath.
Yeah, that's all. That's the and even though that's not true, that's as close as we're going to get to truth in a human body. That's as close as we're going to get. So that's going to take us there. And all those medicine ceremonies, what did I have? My breath. Take us home.
I love that yellow behind you, Kenneth. Did you do that? I love it.
This is the same background.
That's very superficial, but I love the yellow.
This is the same background that was studs, 2 months ago. I'm remodeling a house. Going on the next room, but the office is done.
I've got an interesting.
When this, I'll get to you in a second, Chris. But this is when I had tried my whole life, and I could never. Nothing ever was. This whole law of attraction eluded me. The law of attraction. I was attracting, fear, shame, guilt, drama, special. I was attracting all that. When the pole shift took place, when I got on my knees, when the medicine, forced me into the breath, when I had that near-death experience, I realized connection had to come first. then what happened? Everything else began coming online. The law of attraction finally began. My life started working. Friends, intimacy, work, solvency, because I wasn't coming from fear anymore. This is so important. Anything that comes from fear is projection. Anything that comes from love is extension. I mean, I'm not reinventing the wheel, but you know, we've been so mind controlled, so brainwashed into projection. Out there on the movie screen. I mean, I remember that friend I told you about in high school. His dad used to sit in his underwear, drink beer all weekend, you know, and yell at the TV set, football, go, 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 go. Like, why is he yelling at the TV set? It's a TV set. Well, that's what I needed to see that as a teenager, because that's what I was doing in my mental illness. I was trying to fix the TV set.
No. No.
It didn't work. Fix myself, because I was projecting everything on that TV set. I mean, I know what they're deep rabbit hole. I know they're deep metaphysics, but how, you know, I had to unwind myself from a very sick state. I don't, you know, I wanted to be careful with what I say. All right, so I did go on a date, you know, a couple of weeks ago, and there was, you know, he was trying to make it work. No. You know, you know, some things just aren't going to, not good, not bad, no judgment, not about preferences. It just energetically, there was no this. And that's what we want. You know, we don't want to have to complicated write letters. I'm sorry, it didn't work out. And I'm sorry. No. It's just that energetically, if it doesn't match, you know, let your yay be yay and your nay be nay. Pass one another by, so he can find the person that's going to fit him, and I'm going to kind of. You see how simple life gets? We just flow downstream. You know, this whole, all these things about relationships were complicated before, because they were coming from an egoic place. When the relationships are when they're guided. They're not work. It's just a yes or no. I'm supposed to be with you for, I don't know, 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, back to 2 days. Oh, it's supposed to end now. Thank you. On my way. I mean, this is bucking everything that says, you know, you got to get married, you got to get a house, got to get a mortgage, you know, you got to have kids, got grandkids, and hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder why I have cancer. Oh, I wonder why my kids are acting out. I wonder why my kids are on drugs. Like, I wonder. Well, that's no wonder, because we're not supposed to hold on. We're supposed to let go.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm sorry, but you know, they're going to call us crazy. Of course, they're going to call us crazy. To be well adjusted to an insane society is not a sign of mental health. You're crazy. Look, you're a ne'er-do-well. Look, you're a hobo. Look, you're homeless. Look, you're homeless. Well, who else was homeless? Who else was a hobo? Who else was a ne'er-do-well? Jesus! Welcome home, everybody. I'm sorry. You guys got me on a roll. I'm dead fucking serious. 25 years of psych meds, 4 milligrams of Christ. 4 milligrams. You know what drug there was for 2 years? Oh my God. I mean, I remember there was one time I went with a doctor. You know, the doctors are a little bit of this, a little more of this. I don't even remember the name of the drug. I was so out of it once. Now I could drive car. I mean, the good thing about psych meds is you can still drive cars, and you're not going to get, not going to get thrown in jail, But I was so out of it on one of those psych meds, and I'll never know the name of it, that I went jogging, and the whole world was like, whee! I was like spinning in circles while I was jogging. I went jogging for a 7-mile jog that day, and I said, "Isn't this interesting? The whole world is turning in circles. I've never had this experience before." God.
Yeah.
I laugh about it now because truly, that is that's how I woke up, and that's how I chose to wake up. Somebody pick that up.
I think you're right. When you're meant to wake up, something's going to trigger it. My mother is an astrologer, and one of the things that she used to say in astrology, and I think it's true. I'm not sure I believe in astrology anymore. We could go off on that, but we don't need to. But there were truths that came out of it for sure, just like truths come out of mythology. And one of them was like, when you're experiencing a certain transit, if you will not make the change, the other person or the other party or life will just explode whatever needed to go. If you won't make the choice, it will self-destruct in 5 seconds on its own. And I think I was meant to make the transition to the consciousness that I have now. And I was so stubbornly entrenched in where I was at, and in being part of an unhealthy family of origin, which by duty I would never have left, but I couldn't have made this with them. And it set up a perfect situation, which was awful at the time, but I was meant to go through it because nothing else was going to set me on this path. And I think, you know, the fact that I took Valium for 4 years for a muscle relaxant, but it took me into state of psychosis and a lot of weird brain stuff like you described. But when I came through it and out of it, all these things were laid bare. I could see everything with crystal clarity and without much emotion. Actually, it was like looking down at something that was in the past, because you know, I rose up from the pyre, and that wasn't me anymore. So it was kind of okay. I could look at it without a whole lot of ouch. And I could just see it, but I could also see that I had really tried. And I think we're set on these paths, and sometimes it may seem like the most improbable thing. Like, how did I end up here? But you ended up there, not by accident. None of it was ever accident. And, you know, I wanted to get where I am. I always thought when I get older, I'm going to be more mellow. I'm going to let go of all this intensity. And I was never going to do that. I was never going to do that. I would take courses and I would meditate, but I was never going to be able to let go until I fully let go. And this was the way that got me there. So I don't overall look back on this as a bad experience anymore.
Mary, you said something that was very true. It's the hard part is my family couldn't come with me either. I'm not saying this path is unicorn. I've never said this path is unicorns and rainbows. Mine contained sadness. All right, sadness. I can do that. My teacher's very clear, and because he makes these bold statements, he has to back them up with thousands of hours of videos, which is fine. He loves talking. But in a nutshell, I don't have the exact Course in Miracles quote, but in a nutshell, he said, nothing's going wrong.
Right.
Never has and never will.
Yeah.
Except through the ego's perception. He said, therefore you have a choice. I've heard the word choice, in the last 45 minutes. That's Dietrich Wolsak, choose again. And if I can't choose again, don't judge myself for not being able to choose. It's really not that, otherwise, I think Mary said it, and I don't remember what part of the Zoom call, but otherwise we just start the amusement park, the rides start, the lights go on, the show starts, but that amusement park is just pleasure and pain. I'm tired, folks. I want out of the amusement park. We're all ready to go home here. And there is no mental illness at home. There's none of this, we're done. I love this group because you guys can hear this. That when I go on a date and I talk about this, he was squirming in his seat. Oh, get me away from this guy. don't. What about your retirement? Oh, you don't have retirement.
Oh, okay.
I'm not husband material. Trust me.
Yeah, I gotcha.
No. Who'd want to marry me? I'm homeless. I have no retirement. I have no plans, and I no one wants to marry me.
I don't think that's true. the right person, if you even wanted to, don't say things like that about yourself.
But I get it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He was very much into the game.
And by no fault and no blame, because you know it's opposite. Everything in this world is upside down. We're not upside down. We're right-siding up. Remember, my roommate in Portland, his name is Dyslexia, and I go, John, and he goes, because you all see things upside down and I see things right side up. He was very clear with that when I moved in with him 6 years ago, because everything that we believed went wrong was not true. Everything was going right for us. No wonder we have to keep this a secret. You know, no wonder Krishnamurti, Krishnamurti was not popular. No, neither was Jesus. It was the church that said, "Oh my God, I do something. What's got this Jesus guy? You know, well, that guy's fucking nuts. Well, we gotta make a religion somehow." You know. Listen, being a mystic is not going to get me, you know, New York Times bestseller. Being a mystic is because I'm sorry, the ego has so many insidious traps, and one of them is to become spiritually popular. I've been in spiritual communities for years. You want to see the sickest ones are the ones who are the most popular. They're the ones who got authorship for all those books. Oh, and then they say behind closed doors, we're fucking nuts, but you know, God used the body to write best-selling books. I'm gonna get in so much trouble for what I'm saying.
No, you're right.
Well,
you're right. I've met some of those people in person, and you're right.
What people? You mean people in what?
Greg, I can't say anymore because you know I'm tired of getting kicked out of spiritual communities. Just watch the archive.
Can I share something, Mary?
Please.
Thank you.
Someone's got to shut me up.
So I'm just listening and absorbing all of this and writing down these. I love quotes and I love pulling from people just these little snippets because that's what helps me stay on the track that I'm on right now. And so what I pulled out of what you said, Mary, and it came from before when Kenneth said, and this is what Byron Katie teaches, I'm responsible for what I am thinking and believing. And so that was said first. And then Mary went into, you just like totally reframed your story and you put a different meaning behind it. And that creates the power. And so what I wrote down from that is the only way to change the past is to change the meaning of it. And so then we went into, we don't always get what we want, but we're always going to get what we need. And this is where like one of my biggest lessons in this last month is like to just really sink in and recognize and look for everything is happening for me. Especially all of these challenges. Like, how can I look at this and frame it and be in gratitude for the lesson here? Because we're on this growth journey and we need these lessons to keep coming if we're going to keep growing. And it's all up to us to do that work of inquiry and reframing it because everything really is happening for us. It's totally fucking amazing and and so beautiful. So thank you, Mary, for helping me, and Chris and Kenneth and Greg. Like, thank you again for helping me to come further home, deeper into myself and us as a community.
And if somebody's watching the YouTube archives, I mean, I'm kind of laughing now because the last one got 21 views. But let's, I mean, I don't know if for any reason, you know, somebody, you know, picks it up. Jody and Mary and Chris and Greg and Kenneth, all getting off psych meds and benzos. This is the message. I mean, if there's going to be a target community, it's people coming off psych meds and benzos. Oh, my brain's been damaged. Oh, look what's all everything going wrong. No. But I know it's hell. A lot of people come. You know, I've had so many calls with people that won't come on the Zoom call. I mean, we were that frightened too that going on a Zoom call was just, I mean, getting out of bed and actually letting someone see our face. Jody, everything you said, this is what I laugh about the course. People come to Course in Miracles, got to do 365 lessons, 365 lessons. That's ridiculous. Who in the hell is going to be able to train their mind for 365? Well, maybe my teacher can, but I don't know anybody else. But they're nuggets. The whole book is full of fucking nuggets. Just grab the nugget, and if you're supposed to chew on it for 10 minutes or 10 hours, because it's a very complicated book. But, that's basically what you just said, Jody, was a Course in Miracles lesson. I don't know what anything means. Blank slate. That's why I even found this community. They call themselves tabula rasa, which I think is that Italian or Spanish, which means blank slate. Wipe our slate clean and let spirit ride on it from now on. We've been trying to write meaning onto life and like my friend, Drew would ask me, the Buddhist monk, well, how's that working for you, Kenneth? We've been trying to write the script. And then we realized we don't know what we're doing. And spirit says, no, you don't. So let me write on that. Get off the eraser. I'll help you. Erase your slate and let me write on it. Jody, that's perfect. And what Mary was saying was Mary was writing. Mary wasn't doing that writing. Mary was letting herself be written onto. That's why it has to be a ministry.
I've got a
What
question.
they say here, I'll let you in a second, but what they say in the community, it drives me nuts here. They say they give you a long list every single day. It's a horrible place to live. And they say, you're here to undo the doer. And I scream, I go, how? And they said, you're going to be done through. Now get to work. That's why it's a monastery. I'm sorry, Chris. Go.
Oh, that's great. No, I just had a question, because I totally agree, and I've totally reframed suffering, or at least I'm trying to reframe suffering in this way of that's the catalyst for growth, right? It's kind of one of the foundations of this group. And even though I know that now intellectually, and I've even applied it, I am shocked at how much it doesn't always help when new challenges arise. And I kind of understand why it doesn't help. And maybe I'll explain what I mean by that. It's like challenges wouldn't be challenges if they weren't challenging, right? And so they have to be challenging in order to be that catalyst for growth. And then, if you overcome that challenge, you grow, and life is a series of new challenges arising. And I don't even know what I'm asking, but I don't know if I'm asking for advice or any insight on this, but what do you do when you're at the base? You've just conquered a mountain, you've just climbed a mountain, and you realize you're at the base of a new mountain, and this mountain feels so different from the last mountain. The last mountain was easy in retrospect. This new mountain is so much bigger and so scary, and even you might even recognize, this is what I said at the base of the last mountain. But what do you do? I mean, I guess the answer is you just be brave and you keep moving forward, and you cultivate some courage. But I don't know, any additional insight on that?
Yeah, I think I can. It's something I kind of struggled with too. It's like, well, I'll tell you this: when you come into a new mountain, you don't have that wisdom. That last mountain you gain a lot of wisdom from, but this mountain, it just you're going to mess up. You're not going to do it elegantly. You're not going to do it. You're not going to do it well at first, and it's a learning experience. There's no shame in that. It's definitely a learning experience. So I try to have patience with myself because I've gained so much wisdom. But you don't gain wisdom without getting your ass kicked first. So you got to get your ass kicked. It's going to happen again and again. So that's kind of my insight on that, because I mean, we gain wisdom and we gain grace, but then the next thing comes and we're a total mess again, and
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what you're at, if that's.
No, that is helpful. I think sometimes I mistake the fear, to use your metaphor, Greg, the fear of getting my ass kicked.
Mhm.
I think sometimes that gets twisted around to be kind of this avoidance of life. It's kind of like protesting the mechanics of, constant growth throughout life. And you know what I mean? Like sometimes it can look like fear of growing or fear of that challenge, but I wonder if it's more so this rejection of the principles of growth.
What do you mean? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm explaining myself, but if you were accepting of the fact that life is a series of challenges, and
Mhm.
we can reframe those challenges as periods of growth, right? You gain wisdom from getting your ass kicked. I like that. If you can fully accept that, then when a new scary thing comes along, you can feel the fear and
Mhm.
accept that and know that that's part of the process. And I
Mhm.
think sometimes when the fear totally paralyzes me, it's not that I'm just scared. I think what it is like, I think I'm fighting the process, and I'm almost rejecting or avoiding or protesting
Yeah.
like the natural laws of the human condition, or this journey we're on, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm just kind of thinking out loud as to why I might be aware of these things and still like so petrified of this new mountain. It's almost like a rejection of the
Yeah.
idea that you got to climb the mountain.
Yeah.
Chris, faith is a muscle. Good work.
Yeah.
I'm gonna end the recording. Do you want to say something for the recording? Yeah, Jody.
So what comes up as I listen to you, Chris, is I'm a quote lady. I love them. Attitude is the difference between an ordeal and an adventure. It's been
Yeah.
on my wall for years, and I look at it every day, and it's taken a while for it to sink in. And the more I think, so I look at it and I think about it, and it sinks in. And like a couple of weeks ago, I started saying, every day's an adventure. And the more I said it, the more I believed it. And it's like right on my wall there. And I started saying it and just like, okay, so every day's an adventure. And so this is how I'm going out in the world.
Mhm.
I'm going out in the world to start my day thinking every day's an adventure. So that's now the framework. And so now I'm open to the possibilities of the adventure.
Right.
And the more I see that, and it's been really incremental, like the more I see it, the more I say it, the more I feel it, the more I live it, the adventure gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so then just recently I started saying, and I wonder how much fun I can have with this.
There you go.
That's
That's what I
great.
love about
That's
you,
how I'm
Jody.
going out there, right? Like every day's an adventure.
Mhm.
And I wonder how much fun I can have with this. So when I come up against that, what you're calling the mountain,
Mhm.
I don't even see it as a mountain anymore. I don't even see it as a challenge. I'm just like bring on the next adventure.
Right.
Now, it's easy for me to say that, right? Life still throws me an adventure that I'm like, holy crap, this is big. And then but as soon as I catch myself going down that thought process, I catch it and I'm like, whoa, we've been down that road. You know where that road goes. Let's stop it now. And the more you do that, it gets easier and easier. So it all just kind of builds, right? And then you get knocked down again, and then you have to bring that awareness back in and like, oh, right, this is what I want to create. Every day's an adventure, and I wonder how much fun I can have with this.
I love that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's
I do
great.
too, and that's how I want to end this recording. You guys can keep the Zoom room open as long as you want. I cannot believe how much wisdom came through in the last hour between Chris, Jody, Greg, and Mary, and maybe something came out of Kenneth, I don't know. But if you're watching this on YouTube, please leave your comments below. This is our 63rd Zoom call for psychiatricsobriety.com. If you are watching this on YouTube, please Please, 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 please join us on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. Pacific time, because contribution is participation. God bless. May the force be with you, and have a good week.